Welcome to the Dave Chang Show, part of the Ringer Podcast Network, presented by Major W Media. Thank you, Ola Tingo, as always. If you haven't already, check out our new YouTube channel at The Dave Chang Show to watch full episodes and clips from the show. You can watch all video episodes on Spotify as well, and all things at Major W Media. Today, we are joined by our good friend, author, food stylist, and much more, Courtney McBroom. We recorded this a little while back, right before the Emmys. Courtney consulted on Apple's TV's Lessons in Chemistry, starring her friend, Brie Larson. We chatted about everything from Courtney's career, starting from Milk Bar to Lessons in Chemistry and the emergence of New Pass. Because back in the day, there was probably like, I'm catering or I'm going to work in a restaurant. Now, those aren't even cool options anymore. There's so many others. And something we've talked about on this podcast about a chef that is trying to food style. And none of those things from the restaurant world actually translate at all to food styling.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to talk a little bit about spit buckets and the challenge of food styling for TV shows in general. I just took a lot of, I want to say, is it Schadenfreude? Schadenfreude. There was a lot of that.
Yeah.
Hearing her misery made me feel a lot better about ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But food plays a big part in the show Lessons in Chemistry. And as you've heard recently with our first culinary cameo segment, a couple episodes back, we are really, truly fascinated with how food is captured on screen. Excited that you get to learn more about her, and you may see Courtney McBroom, the old McBroom, again soon on Recipe Club. Very funny, very fantastic chef. Very happy to have her in our universe. But now we're joined with somebody that is not Yuno Lee.
It's not Yuno Lee.
By the way, I wrote Yuno Lee's recommendation to law school.
When we find out if it worked.
I don't know. Somebody, Kelsey read it, was like, you might want to rewrite that again.
You want him to get in? No, it's not Yuno Lee, but I feel like it's the spirit of Yuno Lee. We're bringing some new blood into the team here.
And David didn't even know he was going to be on this podcast. In fact, he didn't even know he was going to be helping out on podcasts till 2 weeks ago. Welcome to How We Do It, David.
I love it.
And David Meyer, not Myers.
Meyer.
Shame on you for calling him David Myers.
I'm so sorry, David Myers.
So you had a surprise segment, and we genuinely don't know what the hell it is.
So we threw you into the fire because you're throwing us into the fire.
Absolutely.
So what the hell are we doing?
I'm going to return the favor. So Courtney McBroom, as you talked about, worked on Lessons in Chemistry with Brie Larson.
Mm-hmm.
And Brie is obviously a big star of the screen, and she also has a great name. Brie, of course, the soft French cheese. I'm sure you're familiar with it. But I know personally that Brie's not the only celebrity with a food as a name. So I wanted to throw you into the fire and pick a few other stars whose names make us hungry.
Okay. I thought the new segment was Cheese Corner with David Meyer.
The Cheese Corner.
Us what different cheeses are.
No.
So what's the thing? It's celebs with food names?
Yeah. So names that are foods. And I'm going to give you two challenges. One is to decide which is the best actual food, but then which is the best as an actual name for a human being.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, where do we start? What Dave, do you have any of these off the top of your head?
No.
The first one is, there's a lot of degrees to get to this guy usually, but Kevin Bacon is the first one that comes to mind.
So many degrees.
Fucking guy. This fucking guy.
I feel David is went to a good school, highly overeducated, to come up with that pun.
I know. Yeah, that groaner. Kevin Bacon, top of the list. Here's my question.
Yeah.
Of all of the rices in the world, which is the best rice? You got your Jerry. You got your Tim. You got your
Condoleezza.
You got your Condoleezza. Ann rice, is that a thing?
Yeah.
Ann rice?
Yeah.
Are there other rices?
Not that I know of.
I think the best of the rices.
Best of the rices. I mean, clearly got to be Jerry Rice. Oh, you have Jim Rice, baseball player, Hall of Fame for the played many of his. I think he's a Hall of Fame career, but not considered the greatest player of all time, like Jerry Rice is considered.
Yeah, it's tough to compete with that.
Yeah, Jim Rice. There's got to be another. Simeon Rice was a football player, defensive end for the Phoenix Cardinals. I believe he was the 3rd-round draft pick in 1996, I believe. Can we check that out?
Is that real?
Can we check that out? Simeon Rice.
Simeon Rice. Okay. A lot of Rices on the field.
A lot of Rices on the field. Simeon Rice. Oh, born in Chicago. He was drafted in 1996, round 1, pick 3.
That's disgusting.
That's crazy, right? What college did he go to? He didn't go to Florida State. He went to SEC school, but I can't remember. No, he didn't go to SEC school. He didn't. He didn't go to South Carolina. No. I don't remember.
He's a hometown boy, Illinois, fighting Illini.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's crazy that I remember this shit.
That's insane.
That's gross.
That's
There's
wild.
a whole goddamn Wikipedia article dedicated to famous people with the last name Rice.
Really?
That's
That's
crazy.
unreal. Well, I'll throw you an accompaniment dish. We have Steph Curry. Is also
There's
one
also
of the
a
food
Tim Curry. We
names.
got a Tim Curry.
Tim
I think
Curry.
there's also an Ann Curry.
Where's Tim Curry from?
Tim Curry's
Oh, the
like
actor.
the
The
actor.
actor,
Yeah.
yeah.
What movie? What's the most?
I love him in-
Rocky Horror.
I love him in Clue.
Clue. He's incredible in Clue.
He's very good in Clue.
Yeah. We also have Rosemary Clooney. But rosemary, it's not really a dish, but it is.
No.
It's food related.
Rosemary Clooney's out of the running.
A lot of the berries. We've got Hallie.
Oh,
Daryl
delicious.
Strawberry is a specific.
Oh.
And you pointed, we were talking about steaks today, and Chuck roast came to mind. So Chuck Berry, when I came up
Chuck
with that
Berry,
one,
the
I'm like, that's the twofer.
I'd
that
say
might be the
my
top.
favorite name, my favorite nickname,
Yeah.
ever in sports is Vinny Johnson, Vinny the Microwave Johnson.
Microwave.
Instant offense.
I was always a fan of Steve Omakase.
I'm partial to the fridge as a Chicago Bears guy.
All right, the fridge. Let's see here. What else? Is that everything?
and then we've got, if you want to go there, OJ is
OJ, another star of the screen in the field.
Absolutely.
I don't think he's going to win.
No.
I was just listening to Bill Simmons' podcast. He did the best players on worst teams starting lineup, and there's a food name in there. Joe Jellybean Bryant, Kobe Bryant's dad.
Jelly Brie.
Best player,
Yeah.
bad team.
Linebacker that played for the Giants under Parcells, and then later played terribly for the Washington then Redskins. Pepper Johnson, number 58. No,
Julius
that's called
Peppers was.
Julius Peppers does sound delicious.
Yeah.
Which
Does
name
sound
sounds the most
That's
delicious?
yeah.
Julius Pepper sounds delicious. Does this count? If you're going to do Jelly Bean Bryant, can we have... Is Meatloaf his real name? Did he change his name to Meatloaf?
I don't know of his real name, but Kobe.
Kobe. Okay,
If we're talking the Bryant family.
Another favorite name of mine, not food, but food equipment. When the Washington Bullets had a center, and his name was John Hot Plate Williams.
Ooh,
So hot plate is good.
That does sound
It's a
delicious.
good name.
So which of these do you think, like you're naming a child,
Well,
which would you
I have
feel
a
okay
dark
with?
horse for this
Oh,
that
go
just
for it.
that just came into my head, and I don't know if this counts as food, but it sure sounds delicious to me. Chow Yun Fat. I would
Fat.
order that every fucking day.
It's good. That's good.
I would take Chow Yun Fat.
Oh man, I need time.
I know. I
can't
sprung
just-
this on you. I really did.
So what is our goal? We're trying to find the most delicious sounding celebrity name.
Well, which is the best? It was just
For
going to
me,
be the
for me,
best
it's-
food that people have used as a name.
For me, it's Chow Yun Fat.
That's a good one, man.
Chow Yun Fat's for me. What's your favorite? It could be Chow Yun Fat. You can come on board.
No.
Plenty of room. How about Tila Tequila?
There's got to be one that can trump you. I know it. It's like I'm casting a Harry Potter spell. I know I can fucking cast it. I know I can do the fucking Defensium, whatever the fuck it's called.
Defensium! One of the lesser known dark spells. Defensium! What you got? What you got?
I don't know. Jose Canseco.
Does sound like a good cookie.
Yeah.
I would eat a Conseco.
Oh, yeah.
Like Pepperidge Farm Conseco?
Yeah.
I would eat that.
Ooh. There's Alyssa Milano is an actual actress. Milano's that's pretty good.
Alyssa Milano's
Yeah.
very good.
That could be. And you eat it with some Harvey milk.
Oh my
Dip
God.
it in those.
Fucking guy.
Yeah. I mean, it's lots of good food-based names out there.
Yeah, there's got to be one that can beat Chow Yun Fat. It's too good. You're not allowed to.
Nobody can defeat Chow Yun Fat. Haven't you ever watched the Chow Yun Fat movie? That's the whole point of Chow Yun Fat. He can't be defeated.
That's tough.
You sank my battleship.
All right, David Meyer, you declare what is the ultimate food name of all the things we've been hearing here?
I mean, I think Julius Peppers or Chow Yun Fat. Absolutely.
Oh, well, given the racial makeup of this podcast, I think it's going to be Chow Yun Fat, my friend.
Clear winner. I get that.
Sir, thank you for joining us
Thank you
today.
guys for participating.
We're excited. One of the reasons why I know that you're going to be a great addition is there's very few people that have done as many random ass things as you have.
That's
a
true.
young age of yours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is weird and impressive.
Yeah.
Oh,
What's one of the stranger things that people don't know about you that you've done?
I mean, at this point, I mean, I'm a free agent in the NBA if we're talking sports.
That's right.
I did
Can you
declare-
explain to everybody? You know this?
What did you do?
You don't know this story?
For the
what?
bit in college, I'm not good at basketball, although I hear that there may be some runs that I'll join at some point.
You
But-
declared for the NBA draft? Is that what happened? How does one do that?
I wrote a physical letter to the league, sent it to the NBA draft mailbox, filled out all the paperwork, and then surprisingly somehow was overlooked and undrafted in the,
like the idea that-
2019 draft. Me, John Morant, Zion Williamson, it was
I like the
top
idea
heavy.
of you gathered around with your loved ones wearing a suit on your couch, just watching the draft, waiting for the call.
absolutely, yeah.
Really
The
good.
call
I had
never
no
came.
idea that. That's
yeah.
fucking crazy, man.
So
One of many, many weird things he's done.
for sure. More.
He's a
bring more.
podcast Swiss Army knife for us.
Welcome to the team, man.
Thank
Happy
you.
to have you.
Hi, you two.
Oh
Lovely
my God.
people. It's probably been 7 years since I've seen either of you.
Mm-hmm.
It has been a long time. I can't
What's been
remember the
going
last
on?
time. I don't remember when the last time I saw you, McBroom.
I'm sure we were very intoxicated doing something.
Yeah, I think that was one of the case. I think it was like an SNL after party or something like that. I don't remember. But I do remember
Yes.
being like very drunk. And you were also very drunk.
Yep.
And
Yep. Per usual.
That's the last.
That checks out. That checks out. I mean, if you're at an SNL after party, you have to be at least a little bit drunk because they're so fun.
Right. And there we go. Just name dropping how cool we are going to an SNL after party, right?
Yeah. That was
Where
the
were you,
first and
Chris
last
Yang?
time I've
Where
been
were
to
you?
one.
Where were you, Chris?
I was sober, just doing math problems at home, just recreational math problems, sober, unfortunately.
Oh, that sounds
Dang
like
you
you.
two. But we've known Courtney McBroom for a long time.
I've known Courtney since, 2007?
Since like 2008. Yeah.
8, yeah. Wow.
Back in the old Milk Bar days.
She was the
I was-
OG.
I was actually, when I was getting ready for this, I remembered the first time you and I met, and it's a short story. Can I tell it really quick? It's
Please.
There's no way you remember this. Or maybe you will, but I doubt it. So it was like my first day at Milk Bar. It was when we were working next to Sambar, and we worked in like the little basement. I'm sure you remember. And I was working the night shift. I was the only one there. And it was literally like my first or second day. Like by myself. And I convinced one of the line cooks at Som to give me one of those chicken sandos, the ones that are so good. And so I got the sando and I went downstairs to the basement to like eat it by myself. And there was one random person in the basement who I'd never seen before. And I was like, who are you? And I walked over and I was like, oh my God, have you tried this sandwich? It is so fucking delicious. It's the best thing I've ever had. And the person was like, yeah, I've tried it. And I was like, oh, well, I just love these sandwiches. And then they were like, well, you should ask for more of them. And I was like, maybe I will. And then I just walked away. And then like the next day I realized that person was you. I would never have approached. But you were like very cool. You were like, well, maybe you should just keep getting more sandwiches. Maybe I will get more sandwiches, sir.
I
So
said it pretty
funny.
cool because we're both pretty fucking cool, Courtney.
Oh my God. The theme of this first part of this interview is how cool the two of you are. It's basically what we're just talking about. Is how cool you guys are.
Well,
Yeah.
that's true.
So our audience knows more or less what we've been up to for the last 7 years. What have you been up to recently McBroom.
Well, I moved to LA, and then, fast forward to the most recent, I was just the food consultant on Lessons in Chemistry, which is hopefully about to win all of the Emmys. And I imagine that's why I'm here to talk to y'all, to talk about that amazing wild ride.
Well, again, we only talk to Emmy winners here since we're Emmy losers ourselves.
Perfect.
There's
That's
only so far. You can only go so far in LA when you're just Emmy nominated.
Right.
Yeah.
You have to win.
And then people
We're
say,
in
like,
it to
oh,
win
this,
it.
and they say, oh, this year? No, like 3.5 years ago, we were nominated.
That's still something. That's big. Congratulations.
How did you land that particular gig? How did you go from the world of sort of making real things for people to eat to making beautiful things that look delicious on TV?
Which were also real, by the way. But Bree's a good friend of mine, and she called me up, like she had just signed on for Lessons in Chemistry as like executive producer and obviously to play Elizabeth Zott. And she knows how obsessed I am with vintage cookbooks and food from like the 50s and 60s. So she called me up and was like, "Hey, Courtney, can I come over and check out your vintage cookbook collection? I'm about to do the show." And I was like, "Oh, that's so cool. Come over whenever." And then she disappeared for like 3 months to go shoot a blockbuster film, as she tends to do from time to time. But then by the time she came back, she was like, "Hey, remember when we had that conversation?" I was like, "Yeah." She was like, "Hey, so I've actually been thinking about it, and I really think you'd be perfect to work on the show. Do you just want to come work on the show?" And I was like, "Yes, I do very much." So I met with the rest of the producers and we hit it off. And a week later I was on set getting my ass handed to me. It's such a different world. Such a different world.
How so?
Yeah. What's like the most jarring thing?
Well, the thing that I didn't, first of all, in honestly, true Momofuku style, I showed up by myself on the first day. It was like the biggest food scene ever. I didn't have any help. And I was like, learning as we went. So, but the one, I knew this part coming in because I was warned, but it didn't really hit me till it was their like action was you have to have like 15 takes of the exact same food. And it has to look exactly the same to the T, because like for continuity. And like, I knew that mentally going in. I didn't, until I experienced it firsthand, I didn't realize how stressful that would be and how fast it would go.
Yeah. So Dave was talking about that, but like for the layperson, what do you like for somebody who's just living at home, when you say it has to look exactly the same? Like, what do you mean exactly the same?
So like the cafeteria scene, which is in the very beginning of the show when Elizabeth and Calvin are like eating all of these different lunches. It was like 7 different lunches and it's just like a reveal. And then Elizabeth takes a bite. And so that reveal, let's say it was lasagna. Lasagna was a big thing in the show. Like even like the cheese needs to look the same. The way the noodles lie need to look the same, because if it looks one way, in one, and then they use in one shot, but then they use a different take for the second shot, the lasagna has to be the same. So like you have to like place the parsley down in the exact same spots and like all this stuff. And normally it wouldn't be that big of a deal if food was just kind of like in the background, but the food also was kind of a star of the show. So, it was really important for it to be not only like in restaurants, you want everything to always taste the same, you're getting the same thing every time, but with the moving pictures, it also has to look exactly
Courtney,
the same.
did you find that, and I constantly have to remind myself of this as well, that while there's a deadline and there's somebody like, we need this now, it somehow triggers restaurant brain, but then you have to tell yourself, this isn't a service, we're not getting reviewed, and the food could taste like total shit, but it doesn't really matter. You know what I mean? It's hard to turn that off. Do you have a hard time turning that off?
Well, yes. And I didn't turn it off because also one of the things that I really like, yes, of course, there can be some ways that you can like, trick things, but I really wanted because actors were eating the food and I knew that we were going to turn all of these into actual recipes after the fact. And like, we did a whole little cooking show of like me doing demos of the food and posted the recipes online. So I wanted it to all be authentic because I wanted it to look like the way it was going to look when we actually wrote out the recipes and like did all of that content too. So like, it really was, and all the actors, like, how they do like spit cans or whatever. So like they'll take a bite and then spit it out. Like none of them even used it because it was so good.
So even like continuity, you're making the same bite, the same lasagna over and over again. You're saying like that's all edible on your show and it's seasoned and it's properly done and you're not spraying it with whatever to make it look glossy or anything. No
Sometimes,
movie magic.
Occasionally there would be like the most I ever did was like spray with oil or spritz with water, but I didn't use like shortening for ice cream. There weren't any ice cream things, but I used like the real deal. Because I wanted it to be good because I am a restaurant person and like I don't fuck around when it comes to food. There, I said it.
Did you have a real kitchen setup? Or were you building it out of a trailer, or was it like a tent on the side? Did people confuse you with craft services?
Sometimes. Well, but eventually when everyone realized what was going on, everyone would stop by on their way home to like pick up the leftovers. Like I can't tell you how much lasagna we gave away. And it was not like, it was like almost like a camp kitchen. Like you're out camping. It was a makeshift kitchen, but we did a lot with it. We persevered and we made it work.
It's interesting that you experience this too, because I think like you're one of the few people I can have this conversation with when you watch food drama or whatever. It could be a movie. It's the reason why there's not more of culinary TV shows that are scripted is because of the cooking and the matching of the shots. It's fucking impossible to do because sometimes there might be 40 takes and that means 40 bites of lasagna that are, I mean, it's very difficult to do. And it's a logistical sort of bottleneck. And whenever I explain that to people as the reason why, they're like, well, that's stupid, but I don't think they get it.
They don't get it. Well, and you know what I noticed my first day on set too, which I thought was really cool. So it feels like a restaurant, like a production team feels very much like a restaurant, like you're working in a restaurant. There's so many people working their butts off, except the main difference in a restaurant, food is everyone's working for the food. For the food is the main thing that everyone's working for. Whereas with the production, the show is, or the movie is, and maybe the food is an important part of it, but it's just a small mini part of a much larger thing. So that was that was like a really interesting thing to see, to like be still like a large part of something, but also just one small part of a much grander scheme. Whereas in kitchen, it's like, we're all in it for the food.
So like, what does that department look like? You know, is it just you who is thinking, oh, I need to make the cheese be the same here. I need to put the parsley in the same place, or somebody looking over, like watching you and saying, Courtney, you need to do this part again. Oh, this doesn't match, et cetera, et cetera. Like who's looking over this thing?
I'm looking over this. So after that first day on set, I was like, oh Lord, I need some help. So I brought on a team of amazing food stylists, and I was kind of like looking over them, making like the person that I worked with the directors and with the writers and helped really come up with a lot of the food, what the food was going to be, some of like the food plot lines and all of that stuff. And then so I was kind of liaison and worked with the food stylist, like, okay, this is what we want it to be. This is how we want it to look. And I had like last eyes on things. I also worked with Brie directly on like, she's a really good cook already. So it wasn't that hard of a job for that part, but like teaching her how to do specific things. Like there's a flambe scene that was a stressful moment for everyone. And then also I was the hand double. So on all the scenes, like the close up chopping scenes, that's these babies right here, these money makers.
Protect those. I'm surprised you don't have gloves on those right now. Come on.
I usually have my gloves, but I knew I would be presenting them to camera. So I
someone call Lloyd's of London right now. Let's get those insured. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, do you agree with Dave then? I think you just sort of proved it. Like you're sort of the swap in for the close-ups. You know, like you're the person who can really play piano when they're cutting for the close-ups. Do you agree with Dave that there will never be a fully convincing actor who can portray a true chef? Like no swap-ins, no faking it, no close-ups with somebody else's hands, like truly an actor.
Actors can't actually cook, and cooks have a better chance of being a better actor than an actor becoming a great chef. As great as Brie is, right?
She's really good. Honestly, I was amazed. She was really good. Like, she took it very seriously. I will say this too. Elizabeth Zott isn't a professional chef.
Mhm.
She's a home cook, and she does it a lot. Like, as for other like professional chef shows, I don't know. I honestly, I know that The Bear is really good, but I couldn't watch it because I was too triggered by it. So I don't know how they did it. But I will say, in Bree's case, she did a really good job. She knows her stuff.
Well, she's Captain Marvel. She should.
Yeah.
She's got magical powers.
She does have magical powers.
We had I was going to just pivot real quick. We have questions from our audience, knowing that you were coming on from our Discord.
No way.
Dan Saxon. Maybe this doesn't apply to you. Dan Saxon from our Discord was wondering, maybe not just from the show, but in making cookbooks and everything, and making things for books and TV and all of that. Dan Saxon is wondering what the most inedible thing you've ever passed off as food on a photo or a video has ever been.
Most inedible. I mean, I think I already touched on this. Everything I make is delicious and edible. God damn it.
No.
What are some of the tricks? What are some of the tricks for food styling? And it doesn't have to be for lessons in chemistry. And I've seen it over the years, and I've been like, holy shit. That is crazy.
I think like the 80s was like a time where there were like lots and lots of tricks. Now, not as much, especially if you're talking for like commercials and stuff, because it's illegal. Like, you have to use the same stuff. Like, I was, after I left Milk Bar, I did some consulting for an ice cream company for a while, and we did a photo shoot for that. And it was a nightmare, but we had to use the real ice cream. And so what you do is we like scoop, like we did like 100 perfect scoops of ice cream, kept it in like a flash freezer. And then the photographer had like 10 seconds to shoot it. And then we'd have to do switch out. So it was like switch. I'd
be switching that out with Crisco. That's just me.
I know. I mean, that's what, and I think people probably still do that. But if you get caught, I think it's like you get in a lot of trouble. But I will say there is a specific type of whipped cream that we use. There's a strawberry shortcake scene, and it holds up. It's not Cool Whip, but it's similar. It holds up really well for a long time especially under the heat of lights. So we did use that, and I can't remember what it's called, but it's basically like Cool Whip instead of whipped cream. That's about as fake as I got.
Well, you know me, I'm always gonna be honest, and don't get mad at me because you just gave the reasoning why you didn't watch The Bear. I have not watched Lessons in Chemistry for the same reason. Like, I don't want to watch food as scripted television. I don't. It's not something that but because you're in it, I'm going to watch it. I'm going to watch it, and I'm going to tell everybody exactly. I'm going to love it, and I'm going to make all of your recipes. But same reason.
You are not going to make all of my recipes.
I'm going to watch all of them. Let me take that back. I'm not going to make all your recipes. I'm going to make some of them.
He was like,
because we want you on Recipe Club.
When the day you make all my recipes is the day we're hanging out at an SNL after party again.
Yeah, I mean, I was with you on all the promises, Dave. Then I was like, I'm going to cook all your recipes. Like, when is he going to do that?
No, it's just there's something about it where maybe when I was younger, but it's just something about watching food on TV.
I get it. I don't watch any cooking shows either. Yeah. It's too close.
Clearly, she doesn't watch Dinner Time Live, so we're even.
I sure as hell don't. I've never seen a second of it. I'm sure it's great. But you know what? I'm gonna go after this. I'm gonna watch all of them. I'm gonna make all the food.
Thank you. Make all the recipes.
I'm gonna make all the recipes.
Oh my God, you guys are terrible. So with Lessons in Chemistry, not only is your challenge to sort of make realistic, beautiful, and apparently delicious food, but also food from a specific era. Can you talk about that part of it? Like, it's a period piece in that sense, and like, what does that mean for you as somebody who's doing the food from this era?
So we took some liberties with it because since you haven't seen it, you don't know this. But Elizabeth Zott, like her whole story, she's really up against a lot of walls. She's a brilliant woman, a brilliant scientist, and she she's a woman of her time, but she's also a woman ahead of her time. So we, instead of making like the typical like Jell-O molds, like the weird, like processed, freaky 50s and 60s food, which I love, we didn't feel like that would be the type of food Elizabeth would make. So she did like a lot of like, she makes everything from scratch. It's all like fresh food. She has like a basil plant in her kitchen. We still kept like a nod to that time, but we also were like, nah, she's better than that. She's good. She went to war with what we call Swift and Crisp, which is a type of hydrogenated fat. We can't say the real name.
Oh, you can't really say Crisco?
Well, we couldn't in the show.
Yeah, there's a lot of things we can't say on our show either, which is like so dumb.
Yeah.
It's true.
It's silly.
I saw on I'm rarely on social media, but I saw that Bree went on an eating tour with you.
Yeah. Yeah, we went to San Gabriel Valley. What we realized, so Bree and I are such good friends, but we'd never worked together. What we realized in Lessons in Chemistry is how much we also love working together. So we're starting to do more food stuff and collaborate in that way. Because she loves to eat. She's a huge foodie. And again, a really good home cook.
Do you worry sometimes about going into business with your friends? Like, going to business with Chris is still a roll of the dice for me.
I mean, I hear you. And I've been burned in the past by going into business with friends. So it is always scary, but also ultimately, if it feels right, you have to at least try. And I would never go into business with Chris. You're crazy for doing that.
I mean, Courtney, I think maybe the next step is like, you might become an actor yourself. Would you?
Be an actor?
Yeah. Like Maddie Matheson's an actor now.
Oh yeah.
On The Bear.
That'd be fun. Yeah, I could come on and that's true, yeah. I'm still trying to make it in the food world though.
But you're
still
like,
trying to find success in my original career.
No, but it's interesting. Like, what is that? What is that? Because you have been, and you're not, when you say like finding success in the food world, like you don't mean I want to open a restaurant. Like what are you trying to do? What does like success for you in the business mean?
I really enjoy writing cookbooks. So more of that. I enjoy doing video stuff. So like ideally dream world would be a cooking show. If you know anyone who has connections in that world, feel free to point.
Nope. Don't know anybody.
But like becoming like a food personality. Cause I think Dave, you will probably agree with me, but I'm interested if you don't. Like, I feel like it's really hard to make money in the restaurant business. It's a lot of work and you have to be really passionate about it. And while I am very passionate about cooking, I'm passionate about having a life outside of that as well. And I think to open a restaurant, you either have to have millions of dollars in backing or that's your whole and only life. And I love all those small mom and pop restaurants so much and frequent them as much as I can. And I have respect for that, but I don't think that's something that I want to do.
But when you started cooking, right?
Yes.
What did you think the end goal was, right? For myself, it was maybe one day I'll be like the chef at like a French restaurant, or whatever. That there was no sort of options. What did you think when you started out cooking? What was the end goal back then? I don't know that I necessarily had an end goal. I just knew it was the next thing I needed to do because I just graduated from journalism school and I was like, well, I don't want to be a journalist. And I was like, I'll go to culinary school. And so I did that. And then I was like, I don't want to be in Austin anymore. I'll drive to New York. So I literally 2 weeks later got in my car, no money, no place to live, no job, drove to New York, applied for a job at emailed Sambar. And I was like, hey, I don't actually want to work for y'all. I want to work at Milk Bar. I know it just opened. Can you hook me up? And then 2 days later, Tosi called me and was like, come on in. One of the OGs.
Who's this big Korean guy in the basement here? I was here to see Christina Tosi.
Have you tried this sandwich? It's delicious. Who owns this place?
Fucking insane.
They're geniuses.
Truly insane.
But like when you left and you started your own business, you've done a few things. I find it interesting because now there's a lot of people that are entering the profession, and I don't know if they have a better idea than we did. They're just like, now there's more options. They can become a food stylist. They can become a journalist back, in a roundabout way. But the only option of being a restaurant chef isn't like, I don't talk to anybody that wants to be an executive chef anymore. It almost feels like it's a dying breed of like, I want to command a kitchen. Everyone would rather do something else. And I don't blame them. I
think that sounds correct. Or I think people, they don't want to go work for other people's kitchens. They want to have their own. So like, I don't know, I've been in LA at this point for so long, but like everyone is doing pop-ups now. And it's like, and I think, which is great, because I think that like, I guess the food world in many ways is democratized. And so they'll have like, I make smash burgers and I'm going to make the best smash burger and do these pop-ups, or be it pizza or like whatever it is. And I think that's really interesting. And I wish everyone well, and hope, in my experience, like, listen, like I've just never been able, and maybe, I don't know, it's just so hard to monetize that type of stuff because go ahead, but I have something really cool to say. I realized recently, food is the only form of art that tickles all of the senses. It's like, and you taste it, you see it, you smell it, you touch it. What are the other senses? Did I get them all? Oh yeah, you can hear it sizzling, and it's gone in a flash. So it's the only art that you can't like reproduce. You can't like print it out and hang it on a wall. You can reproduce it, I guess, in kitchens, but not exactly the same way every time. It's such an interesting field to be in, and it's so difficult.
That was a cool thing to say.
And challenging and fun. I know, right? I think so.
What I think is fascinating about both of you though, who started your careers in restaurants, and regardless of where you thought it was going to take you and where it has taken both of you, it's super interesting to me that McBroom, you take pride in the fact that you're doing this job that is really about what it looks like on camera. Like that's your first priority and your first job on the show is it's got to look good, got to look real, be convincing, but you're proud that no one's spitting it out, that it tastes good and that it's like bringing people happiness to eat it. And I see Dave, like anytime we make a show, he is trying to feed everybody. Like it happened today when we did practice for the next episode of Dinner Time Live. It happens at the end of every episode of that show we do. As soon as we wrap, he starts making plates for everybody. No matter how far away you guys get from that sort of core job of a cook feeding people, it's still like in your DNA. You guys cannot stop taking pride and pleasure and joy from, I'm feeding you, I'm giving you sustenance, it's delicious. I don't know what it is. Like I think it's the reaction.
I think the last time I saw Courtney making sure that everyone was fed, like she was giving everyone queso. And
oh yeah,
that sounds about right.
I think that it was there were not even any chips to dip it in. I think you were just pouring in people's hands.
Just like ladling it into their mouth. That sounds about right. That sounds right.
You said something that's interesting, and maybe the listeners might appreciate it, because I think Chris, and unfortunately many people that work with me might feel the same way. When you started the job on Lessons in Chemistry, you went in solo, right? Mm-hmm. You had, I'm sure, a lot of ideas, what you wanted, but you didn't do what I think most people, when I'd say most people, I'd say, yeah, most people, for the same reason most people, when they open up restaurants, I think they overstaff, intending to fire everybody along the way. And I hate that. I think one of the things that was like core, and is still a core thing of Momofuku and Milk Bar, was doing it as Spartan as possible to start out, to know where and how you're going to need to add things, and to also know how to do every position. And it's going to hurt like a motherfucker. I'm sure those first few days you were just in the weeds like you've never been, and also responsible to a director and avenues that you weren't before. And it was maddening, I'm sure. And then look at you now. Now you are basically the commander of a kitchen brigade of stylists. But if you started out that way, do you think that it would have been as successful if you had like 5 people starting out day one with you?
Yeah, no. I mean, they say there's too many chefs in the kitchen. That's a cliche for a reason, because a lot of times you have to go in and you have to really see the lay of the land and really at least for me, like I need to like viscerally feel something and like be in it and know. Otherwise it gets lost. Like too many cooks in the kitchen, you know, like you don't want too many people there mucking it up. You also need to like establish yourself as the boss, you know, and then it just makes things easier. And I hate working for a boss that doesn't, I would never want to work for someone who wouldn't also want to get in there and do the dishes with me, you know?
Amen.
And I think that's important. And I mean, those early days at Milk Bar, looking back, were insane. There was like 3 of us, you know, but it's also, you know, and I look back on that time, like in a very bittersweet way. But one thing that I do know is like, I learned so much about myself and how far I can push myself. Like there were like it was a really growing experience. That
you were
deeply painful at times, but also important.
Because it was so fucking busy. You guys were so fucking busy. It was insane.
It was wild.
Lines around the block all day long.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, it was a moment.
That's when you could get hot cookies. That was crazy.
Yeah, like fresh out of the oven.
Yeah,
I look back on those years in New York. That was a magical time to be in food in New York.
That's what
like we were at the center of it. It was special.
Again, Chris Ying wasn't there. No surprise, but I say that all the time that when we lived in New York at that time, it was, again, people of course are going to say that whenever they lived in New York, but it was sort of one of the best times to live in New York back then.
Yeah, I think so too. And I know that there's so many amazing things happening in New York right now. Of course. But like, there was just something like energetic, and maybe it's because it happened to be when we were there. So we were feeling it. So we're like, yeah, it was the best, but we had fun.
No, it was the best. I think unequivocally, objectively, it was the best.
I don't know. There was a lot of cool stuff happening in South Orange County around that time. It was pretty cool. Just hanging out in Laguna Beach, man. It was really, really culinary.
Chris, is that where you were? Are you from Orange County?
Yeah. I'm from He's Orange a young County, Republican.
Excuse me. I'm a pretty old Republican nowadays.
You're a middle-aged Republican.
I am not.
Yang, I just got a text message from Trump. Kamala cancels the debate. She's afraid of Fox News. She's hiding just like Biden. My response. Click on this.
I love that you're getting. Dave is getting spammed from both sides. Like it's incredible. He's just like, this Chang guy looks like a real undecided to us. Just spam from both sides.
He's on the fence.
Well, Courtney, I hope that you guys win. You guys have been nominated for 10 Emmy nominations.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that again,
we win too.
In a very Momofuku way, if you don't come win 10 out of 10, we're not talking to you again. You better win every one.
That checks out. So same to y'all. Hopefully you'll win an Emmy one of these days.
No, we won't. Are there any other projects you're working on right now?
Yes, a big one actually, but it's too early to talk about. But I'm very excited.
What hint? Give us a hint.
It has to do with having fun and food.
One of the worst hints ever given on this show.
I really can't say. But listen, I promise you this, when it's time to talk about it, if you'll ever have me back, I would love to come and talk about it some more.
No, I think I was saying, fun. Chris, like we got to get you on Recipe Club.
I would love that.
Yeah.
That'd be so fun.
You know what? Maybe we'll make some recipes from Lessons in Chemistry and I'll show you my yearbook.
How fun.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
All right.
And we can catch you at Ruined Table on socials and Courtney _McBroom, McBroom.
OOM. Like you're sweeping a broom.
McBroom. All right. Courtney, thank you.
Dave, thank you. Good to see you.
Likewise.
You too, Chris.
I guess
yeah,
so.
Chris.
Thank you. Thanks for that add-on.
Okay, you can check out Lessons in Chemistry with Courtney McBroom's food styling Brie Larson. And much like she hasn't watched Dinner Time Live, I've still not watched Lessons in Chemistry. I think it's the first time think about all the hundreds of thousands of millions of hours of fucking podcasts recorded or on TV as well. There's never been a host and a guest that have each said, I've never seen anything you fucking done.
It was like a real breakthrough for interview honesty. Just like, well, welcome. I have no idea what you do. I've never heard this show.
Why would I watch that?
But hey, check out Lessons in Chemistry at Apple TV.
Send us emails. Email us your